Hey, what's up, everyone? So, welcome to Chapter 5. And Chapter 5 is arguably what I would say is the most important chapter of all the chapters that we cover in American government. And because it has to do with civil rights. Now, I want you to stop for a moment and think about what you think about when you hear the word civil rights. Like, what do you visualize? Um, and I wish we were in class because I'd love to hear your thoughts and what you would say about this, but I'll see it when you respond in your discussions. But nonetheless, civil rights is the rights of the people, really. Um, and it's based on the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments of the Constitution. Sometimes they're also called the Civil War Amendments. Now, I would say historically, certainly in the 20th century, politically, they have tried to look at civil rights as if it was like a black thing, right? Or a thing for people of color. And that was it. And so this way, by creating an image of that, then people would either not vote for policies that supported civil rights or think that it had nothing to do with them. And so they would stop and basically not support these causes, like affirmative action programs, not realizing that they benefit them as well. So, under civil rights is an umbrella of everyone. So not just people of color, but women, LGBTQ plus, elderly, disabled folks. All those fall under the umbrella of civil rights and protecting the rights of people, no matter by virtue of ethnicity or sexual orientation or gender or any other aspect that could allow for a definable population of people. It's to protect their rights. And so that's the first thing I want you to understand about the concept. And understanding and the videos that I have in this chapter that I really can't stress that it's important for you to watch. Really will come to challenge your belief system about civil rights. I think one of the things that concerns me today about civil rights, having been a child of a previous generation and growing up through the civil rights era and during that time, and so many people, because things tend to be a little better today in terms of, people being able to spend more time with other groups of people, be able to intermarry, for example. People have friends from a variety of different ethnic groups. That certainly is a part and parcel of the reality of today. We have a much more open, or should say, the society tends to be more open now for LGBTQ plus than it ever have been in the past. And certainly for women have certainly been able to ascend further than they did in the past. However, it doesn't mean that just because you made progress doesn't mean that you can't regress. And so what happens is people get lazy. People say, oh, we've arrived, nothing to worry about, everybody plays fair, everybody loves us. And that's really where we get ourselves in trouble. Because while your reality of civil rights may not be what your parents or grandparents' reality was, doesn't mean that there aren't forces out there, political and social forces, trying to undo your belief about the necessity of these systems. And that's what I really want to stress here, that we still have a necessity and need to recognize the rights of people, not to make us isolate ourselves between like blacks over here, Asians over here, Hispanics over here, and so forth, which seems to be what's happening today, but for us to be able to collectively work together to challenge government to do what it should do innately to protect the rights of its citizens. Meanwhile, we have a government that recognizes that by the year 2050, that the majority of the country will be non-white. So it's really about how do our own identification of how we see ourselves. And how in this chapter, I particularly, if we were in class, I challenged directly a lot of the issues of dealing with race, for example, because race really is not, there's no biological construct for race. And in the video clip I want you to watch called Race, the Power of an Illusion, you'll see just how little of our DNA separates any of us. So basically about 3% of our DNA separates anybody in the classroom or anybody in a space. 3%. And yet we let that 3% dictate the other 97% of our behavior toward other groups of people. That's just mind-numbing if you think about it. And so all this culminates, certainly in the early 1960s with the March on Washington, D.C., which was one of the most powerful moments in history where people from all walks of life, marched to Washington, D.C. and said, enough of this. And it's sad to think that the legacy of that has been pushed aside. And we see people today, young people particularly, who can be just as racist and against other groups of people who aren't like them. And the essence of freedom in our system is the ability for people who don't always think alike or look alike to be able to respect the other people who look or think or act differently than you do. And I think that's one of the struggles that we have in our society today. So, when we talk about the difference between civil rights and civil liberties, as you know, the civil liberties, as I discussed in the previous chapter, those your Bill of Rights, those first 10 amendments of the Constitution that are there to protect you from the government. The civil rights are based on the 13th, 14th, 15th amendments of the Constitution that are there to supposedly, at least in theory, to prevent discrimination. Now, it doesn't mean that it happened, but it just certainly was what the implications were there for. So, for example, the 13th Amendment, as you can see here on the PowerPoint, basically was the one that abolished the slavery. And then the 14th Amendment, it gave the former slaves, citizenship and equal protection under the law, at least conceptually, because it really wasn't. It's interesting how I note this, because sometimes we have all these things in the Constitution that don't really apply or are not applied the way they should be, because certainly people of color, blacks, Hispanics, and Asians were not treated equally. Women were not treated equally under the law. And so recognizing that is really an important component of how far we still had to go in order to build on this. In fact, it wasn't until 1965 that we really took a giant step forward. So 100 years approximately after the amendment passed, we still were struggling with this. And then the 15th Amendment, of course, gave them voting rights. This was really a slap in the face to women, because women thought they were going to get the right to vote too at that time. And ironically, they gave African American men the right to vote, but didn't give women the right to vote. That didn't happen until 1920. So that's pretty crazy when you think about it. 55 years later, it took for women to get the right to vote, approximately. So this is kind of how we start the idea of understanding civil rights based on those Civil War amendments. And then when I talked about, and let me digress for one moment, when we talk about the idea of equal protection, one of the ways they got around the racist aspects that they were trying to continue going forward was through the series of laws that were put in place, like Jim Crow laws, which basically said that it is okay for whites and blacks to have separate schools as long as they both had schools. But the white school, for example, would have running water, and the kids got to go for 9 months out of the year or whatever. And the black school, for example, had no running water and raggedy accommodations. Most kids had to walk anywhere 5, 10, 20 miles in a day just to go to school for a few hours a day, and they only went to school for a few months out of the year. So they weren't separate and equal, and it took again from the late 19th century all the way until the middle 20th century to be able to unwind Plessy versus Ferguson and those Jim Crow laws that should never have been allowed to be enacted, because the 15th Amendment is what should have prevented that from taking place. Okay. Some of the key figures, as you can see, some of them here. So at the bottom there, it says Chavez. There's also in the middle, Rosa Parks, and Malcolm X and Martin Luther King at the top right, and then Angela Davis, who is a retired UC Santa Cruz faculty, were major people in the civil rights movement for people of color. Now, again, there are others for women's rights. There's some names, and you'll see in a moment here, that I'll discuss with you. But these are some of the primary leaders that were significant in moving the rights of people forward, that culminated in 1964 with the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which were both signed by Lyndon Johnson. And then the women's movement, which again, this is something that, I mean to jump ahead, that is such a prolific movement. And sadly enough, 99% of women don't even know the names of these people and what they meant to all of the women in our societies, and how much they accomplished for the rights of women today. Early on, there was the women of the 19th century. In the top right corner there was Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony. Of course, Susan B. Anthony you may know because she actually had coinage for a period of time. But also, just below them was Alice Paul. And, these folks she was prolific in women's suffrage movement in the early 20th century. She was a key figure in getting us the right to vote. Long fight with President Woodrow Wilson, who was not supportive until his wife really pushed him over the edge with regard to women getting the right to vote. These women sit outside of the White House for over a year, rain, snow, sun, and protested to the president, in front of the president in the White House and some of them were brutalized, some of them were killed, some of them were lobotomized, trying to get the right to vote. And again, it wasn't until 1920 that women actually got the right to vote. And the bottom there is these are all women that some of them I would revere more than others, but there's other reasons for that, but I'll discuss another time. But the bottom right there is Gloria Steinem, who is still considered the figure for women's movement in the modern era. She's in her mid to late 80s now, and she's still a badass. That woman is still, she's just so articulate and well-spoken in the modern women's movement, because after women got the right to vote in 1920, that didn't stop anything from happening. Women still had to, because of a couple of wars that took place in there, and women still had to fight beyond that to still get recognized because of all the things that were happening in society in America that prevented them from still taking their proper place in society. It wasn't until the late 60s, early 70s, which is when Gloria Steinem and other figures like her came into the movement, that we actually got to see such great movement and see women start to be treated equally as men in society. Still, but just because we moved the bar doesn't mean that you don't have to protect it and continue to fight the fight. And I think that's what's really sort of happened in a lot of mainstream society today, is that people got complacent because they made a little progress and they no longer see themselves in the way that their parents or grandparents saw themselves in the society. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, because it's in the interest of those who control society for you not to see yourself through that lens, because that means you're never going to vote to support policies that were put in place to protect you. And once those policies are gone or laws are gone, then what are you going to do? What's going to protect you when that happens? And those are the things we have to be able to consider. And then, of course, the LGBTQ community and the rights that have been put forward. Certainly there's been much talked about over the last several years. Finally, gay marriage was approved. But there's also the question of, people still brutalizing, people who, from the LGBT, Q plus community, and they have to continually fight for their rights too and their identity, whether transgender or otherwise, that people have a right to live their lives the way they choose. And for us to be able to support them and respect them for the decisions that they make, because they're still human beings. And the fact that we try to judge them based on, again, just one aspect of their existence and who they are is a little bit unfortunate, that we can't sometimes rise above our own insecurities and our own ignorance to support those who don't look or think or act like us, or like we think mainstream society should act. Again, I mentioned earlier about people with disabilities is also a part of a civil rights group. And this is, again, that's why we have the ADA Acts which support not only individuals across the country who have disabilities, but also even within the colleges. We have accessibility stuff, the requirements now for students to make sure that any student who wants to come to college should be able to have a way to learn through whatever disability that they may have. And we're supposed to provide those accesses through the college. So we have certainly made progress, but again, we can't get comfortable because it is an evolving thing, and we have to continue to evolve as this community grows. Also, again, looking at some of the issues that we face today, like the border issue, like DACA, the Immigration Act, all these things are put in place, because people, well, it's very political, as you know, but it's also, I would say, people, everybody here who is an immigrant, the question is, the people who got in the door first want to be able to dictate how the people who came in last get in. And while there should be a process of immigrating to any country, the question is, are we trying to accomplish a way to let folks in the country in a legal way, or are we just trying to keep them out regardless? I would argue the economy would collapse completely if the people from south of the border and from Southeast Asia weren't here doing the work that most people here don't want to do. That's my opinion. Again, affirmative action programs. These are programs that are put in place, to protect. When people start giving away, there are these policies that are put in place to try and help, whether it has to do with enrollments in college, whether it has to do with even rights of women, and defending, the rights for your civil liberties. There are programs that are put in place to be able to protect you as an individual and as a citizen. And these affirmative action programs are essential to and a foundational component of the civil rights movement to hold government accountable. One of the things I think is really missing or sorely missing from all this discussion is the reality that what happened to all these leaders, all the pictures I showed you earlier of individuals who were key to these movements, they've all died off. And so, except for Gloria Steinem, but even in the other ones, most of them are already passed away. Cesar Chavez and Malcolm X, of course, and Martin Luther King and so forth, they're all gone. So who's around to lead these movements that used to hold government accountable to the people? And the issue today is that there is almost no one. And that's why people are getting sort of overrun by the government and by corporations today, because there's no one countering that argument that comes and what's created for us by those entities. Even voter suppression, this is why we had the Voting Rights Act, because they used to have they could literally have you, they could ask you questions like, so for example, when they tried to keep blacks from voting, they could ask you, okay, so recite the Constitution. And as if anybody could recite the Constitution, like literally, that's those kind of things. Or they would have gerrymandering, they would have various voter ID laws, which we still have today, which if you don't have a certain ID that you're not allowed to vote. This was a really big issue in Texas in the last couple of elections, because they had over 600,000 people who weren't allowed to vote because they didn't have proper ID, things like that. Again, some of the more contemporary issues like Black Lives Matter, the Me Too movement, housing inequality, and these types of things are all part of civil rights movements. So housing used to be a natural right that was accorded to people. It was a public good. It was never supposed to be a profit center. But we need to have a society of people come together to challenge the government to do the right thing, because the government's getting a lot of money from the corporations who make a lot of money on the rising cost of housing. So unless the people collectively stand together, then things never work out. And even the Black Lives Matter movement, was moving toward a All Lives Matter movement, and that, the black house was just the one on fire at that moment, but certainly all the houses have been on fire at one point in time or another. You'll see in the movie A Class Apart how a lot of my students have never realized that Hispanics were also discriminated against just like black people were. And you'll see that how that plays out in the movie that is part of your discussion for Chapter 5. Again, there's some international bodies that are out there, for like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and how we're supposed to treat one another, not just here in America, but across the globe. And being able to learn from the international examples to try to make sure that we adhere to, that the United States adheres to the international standards that were set forth within the United Nations, for example. As I said before, it's an ongoing struggle, and important for young people like yourselves to recognize that the struggle is still there. It's just much more subtle. But don't ever delude yourself to think that that you don't still need to protect your rights as from whatever groups you come from, or whatever your orientation or your gender or any other aspect of your existence that falls within the realm of civil rights, that you don't need to protect it and move forward from it, because it will be taken from you if you don't take care of those things. All right, that's it for Chapter 5. I look forward to seeing you in the next chapter. You guys have a great day.